Oh my god, how much more time did you have to keep this one? It's been half an hour since. Oh, there you are.
Boss, what do you want to see me about?
Okay, so there are two scientists who have claimed to build the same robot. Okay, I have set up interviews with them. I want you to find out what's wrong.
Okay, so what are these scientists claiming to build?
So basically, it's a machine that takes in your blood sample, scans it, and finds out what's wrong with it.
Okay, like your own in-house doctor.
That's exactly what it is.
So my job is to find out who's real and who's fake.
Right.
Okay, got it, boss.
Okay. Oh yeah, and here's a USB that would tell you some more information.
Really?
Come in.
Hello,
Oh,
Dr. Loco.
yes, Jack, right?
So you claim to have made this machine, correct?
Yes, I've cleaned this.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, what you do is you take a blood sample from yourself, insert it into this machine, and this machine maps out any type of diseases that you currently have or might inherit?
Yes, that is true.
Okay, so I'd like to ask some questions. First we'll start off just general questions, then we'll move on to specifics. So I'd like to ask, what is a robot in your perspective?
It is a machine that consists of 5 basic parts. First, it has a physical body structure. Second of all, it has a muscle system that contains of both gadgets and gears, and to move the body structure. Sorry, a sensory system that receives information, a power source to activate the senses, and a brain system that processes sensory information and tells what the machine should do.
I see. Now I'd like to ask, there must be many sequences or processes in your machine. So I'd like to focus on one. What is the role of DNA sequencing in your machine?
DNA sequencing. This process is used to determine the order of the nucleotide bases. So each molecule of DNA is made up from adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, which determine the functions the gene will possess.
I see. Now I'd like to move on to another extremely important process. So what exactly is genetic mapping? Because this is really what it revolves around. So what is genetic mapping in your machine?
Yeah. Genetic mapping is the first step of isolating a gene. Genetic mapping, also known as linkage mapping, can offer firm evidence that a disease transmitted from a parent to child is linked to one or more genes. It also provides clues about which chromosome contains the gene and precisely where it lies on that chromosome.
I see. So we all know that DNA is required for this machine to work, but I want to ask, why is DNA required? Why do we need to put in the DNA?
Okay. We need this because this machine looks at your specific SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms, to determine what makes you different from others, and then takes measures to find out what is wrong with your system. I shared some information on it, right here.
An entire set of 23 human chromosomes is called a genome. The human genome is composed of 3 billion base pairs. Variation at a single base pair is called a SNP, or single nucleotide polymorphism. When the body makes new cells, it doesn't make many mistakes. But nobody's perfect. Sometimes, when the genome is copied to make a new cell, a single base pair gets left out, added, or substituted. Single base pair substitutions create SNPs. There are around 10 million SNPs in the human genome, which account for many of the genetic differences between you and everyone else on the planet. Some SNPs account for differences in appearance. Others can affect how we develop diseases or respond to drugs. Most SNPs, however, seem to lead to no observable differences between people at all. Since variants are passed down from one generation to the next, the number of differences between your DNA and your neighbors can tell you how closely you are related to each other.
Great video. So now I'd like to ask, what specific field do you think that your machine would fall under?
As I stated earlier in this interview, genetic mapping.
Just plain genetics?
Yes.
Okay, that's a little vague, but let's continue. How did you come up with this idea?
It just popped into my head.
Just popped into it.
Yeah, just popped into it.
Dr. Loco, his interview didn't seem that interesting. He only said like vague answers, and the prototype he gave me, he's more of like a car than a machine. Maybe the second scientist will do better.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having this meeting with me, Dr. Johnson.
It's my pleasure, Frank. No, Jack, sorry.
Yes. So, you must be a busy man.
Yeah.
So, thank you for taking your time out. I'd like to ask a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd like to start with something general and then progress. First off, I'd like to know, what is a robot in your perspective?
A robot, in my perspective, is a machine that can complete a complex series of actions from an input such as a microprocessor, which is inside the robot, or an external device such as a computer that can look over the sensors and all the monitoring devices.
I see, very well thought out answer. So now I'd like to move on. So I know from other interviews and buzz in the media that what your product does, it produces a genetic map. How does your product produce this genetic map? And how have you tested this?
Well, my product, to produce a genetic map, to prototype it, our researchers collect blood or tissue samples from family members to prototype this product. By using various laboratory techniques, DNA is isolated from these samples and examined for the unique patterns of bases seen only in family members. These patterns are compared to see similarities and patterns of diseases amongst the relatives. These characteristic molecular patterns are referred to as genetic imprints or markers. These DNA markers are responsible for a particular disease or trait that can be located on the chromosome in a consistent manner and hence are mappable. So what a machine essentially does, it takes a blood sample, it scans it, produces a genetic map, and finds what is wrong. Then it tries to identify what is wrong to see if there's anything related to a disease or a trait that given by family. It tells you what's wrong and it gives you a cure.
I see. Again, you know a lot about your product.
Well, I should, because I invented it.
Huh. So now I'd like to ask, how did you come up with this idea?
Well, I have been doing research on genetic mapping and medical science. I have always seen that people with disabilities or diseases or problems that not their fault, not their lifestyle problems. It's their diseases that they inherit or diseases that just once in a blue moon they get somehow. Oh, sorry, man. I sort of dropped something in my lap. That happens all the time, man. We'll replace it. So, yeah, I always wanted to do that, but I came up with this product because I see families suffer. I don't like that. I've done a lot of research, so I thought I'd put it to the test. I'd push it to the limits and make a product that helps it.
Wow, you are a true humanitarian.
Well, I love humanity, and if I can do anything to help anybody, that's what I would do first.
Thank you for your answers. It's a pleasure meeting with you.
Pleasure meeting with you too.
Dr. Loco's interview compared to Dr. Johnson's interview quite frankly seems bad, and the prototype that Dr. Johnson gave me is much better. It has a bag to insert the blood sample, it has a screen to display your results, and the microprocessor is just quite astounding. Between these two interviews, Dr. Loco seemed much more vague and Dr. Johnson had much better answers.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, boss.
So, could you find anything on what I told you to?
Yes, I figured out who the fake doctor was. But before I tell you, let me tell you how I figured this out. So after you gave me your assignment, I went and I interviewed the first doctor, Dr. Loco. So when I was interviewing Dr. Loco, he knew all about the problem and what the machine did. He knew how the machine worked and its specifics. But when I started talking to him about how he came up with this solution, how he came up, why he did this, he gave superficial or more vague answers when I stepped into this subject.
So, when you asked him personal questions.
Yeah, when I asked him personal questions, precisely.
I see how it is.
So I kept this in mind when I went into the second interview with Dr. Johnson. While I was interviewing Dr. Johnson, he also, like Dr. Loco, knew about the robot. But when I started asking Dr. Johnson more about how he came up with the solution, why he did this solution, how he thinks it will benefit, he had good answers. I could understand what he was saying. He was relating it to the real world, talking about how people could finally be united with their own type of personal doctor, even in remote areas. He knew why he needed this machine out there. So after I compared these two interviews side by side, I realized that Dr. Johnson was the real doctor and that Dr. Loco was fake.
Ah, good job.
So all the information you gave me is on this drive, but I also added what I collected, and it has evidence proving that Dr. Loco is the fake.
Okay. Thanks, Jack.
Aren't you going to call the science police?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, science police. I have found theft. So, his name is Dr. Loco. His address is 41963 McKay Street, Fremont, California. Catch him. Thank you. Bye. Call him.
This is it, partner. We got this! Science police!
Doo-doo-doo-doo!
Clear! Check there! Nothing! Shh. You're on my right!
Oh no! What are you doing? I am a professional scientist!
Justice is served!
Hey, you're science police, right?
Yeah, who are you?
I'm Jack, the guy who figured this all out.
Good job. Who's this supposed to be?
Oh, that's the real scientist, the guy who made the machine.
Oh,
Hey.
nice.
Aren't you Jack, the guy who took my interview?
Yeah.
And you're the science police?
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you, guys. You solved the mystery. I didn't know there was somebody else taking all my ideas and making another product out of it that was based on mine. I really owe it to you guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.